Welcome to another edition of TechCast. Our guest today is Jessica Constantinidis, Innovation Officer EMEA at ServiceNow. Welcome, Jessica. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Welcome for having me.
Jessica, now we're about to talk on a very, very interesting and much talked about topic, which is Agentic AI and its impact and ramifications. So, what are you hearing from your customers when it comes to Agentic AI? Do they really understand the technology and have the applications for it, or is it just all the hype and the buzz surrounding it?
I think a lot of times customers confuse AI.
Right.
They think everything is either regular AI, agentic AI, RPA. They have no clue. So I mostly start with explaining where AI comes from, that it's been already in there in the 80s and the 90s with the machine learning. Then I go all the way through the phases, and the generic AI is basically where we are the people that reason. We ask a question, we get feedback, we reason through it, we ask a question again, we get feedback. The moment you get to agentic, this is where the reasoning sits inside the AI, not inside the human being anymore.
Right.
So this is where you have to have the guardrails, the governance. You need to understand what you can and cannot put in. Your intellectual property, your crown jewels of your organization need to be protected.
Right.
And I think this is where a lot of people are struggling, because the previous version of AI that everybody was launching was more of a safe AI, because you would input the data whilst you were doing the question. With the agentic one, it will actually go collect the data itself. So now the governance becomes more and more important. And then the question is, and that hits to a point, if I'm putting my intellect in there, and if I'm putting everything that I know in there, what will happen? Will it belong to the AI? Will it belong to me? Will it belong to the company?
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of people are scared. But if you put it in a safe environment, and the way that we do it within ServiceNow, we put it in an LLM that sits inside the platform that doesn't go outside. So you're not afraid to leave it on the wide internet. So your business plans will not go outside, they will stay inside. And yes, you can have ChatGPT running locally and everything. And run in that little sandbox, then you're safe. But a lot of people don't understand that that exists. And I think that's where the biggest conundrum sits. They always think outside AI, but there's also a thing like inside AI.
Right.
And once they get to know the inside AI, that's when they move into agentic. So it does exist. People are using it, but there's a common misconception about what it really is and how it can potentially make your business move ahead or pose risk.
Is that misconception because of lack of awareness, or is it because not much has been talked about, that the inside outside AI thingy, or why do you think that is? That gap is there?
Well, I think every single vendor is a little bit to blame on this one, because we come in and we make a sound all the same. And I think looking at a CIO, CTO, CFO, CISO, and even the COO, they all like, but you're all saying the same thing. Which one do I choose? How do I make it all work together? Because you've got the co-pilots of the world, the ChatGPTs, the Perplexities, the ServiceNows, and all of the other ones. And everybody has a flavor of AI, right? So how do you make it work together? And I think this is where ServiceNow is trying to make a different stand, where we kind of go like, okay, it will be a multi-AI environment. It will be a multi-AI, system that you're going to be using. We are not Copilot. We will never be Copilot. So we work with Copilot. And what we try to explain to customers is, how does it work together? How does it work in your ecosystem? And how can you make the right choices for the future in a sandbox, in a sovereign environment? And I think not a lot of people are taking this approach, and it makes people confused. And I would be confused if I would be in their shoes. And I think one of the things that we've done really well as ServiceNow is we have built this AI control tower. That control tower basically governs any AI, any LLM, whether it's internal, whether it's external, whether you buy something, and you govern that piece. And that combined with a data fabric that basically goes in and says, this is the pieces of data that you can use or you cannot use. And we actually tag that data as internal, external, confidential, non-confidential, whatever. And that maps into structured and unstructured data. So then you can connect your AWS data lakes. You can connect your own data lakes. You can connect your SQLs, your Oracles, your SAPs, whatever you might have.
Absolutely.
It makes it a lot easier, because then what people are struggling with is, how do we tag the data for usage of AI? And they go in each and every one of the systems and they try to make that work. We just say, no, connect to our data fabric and put the protocol in the data fabric, and then the data fabric will control it for you. And that makes it a lot easier, because it's one point where you control instead of 20, 30 different systems. And I think a lot of people don't know that it exists. And
Right.
they're trying frantically to catch up. They're trying frantically to figure out where it is. And let's be honest, every vendor, every 2-3 months has a new version, has a new way of going. So I think it wasn't easy for IT people to catch up.
Right.
And I feel this every single day as an innovation officer. If I don't do my 30-40 minutes a day of research, I'm behind as well.
Absolutely.
So this is my job. Now imagine this is not your job. Your job is to run and operate an organization. Then it becomes a lower priority.
Correct.
So it's not easy. So we try to help people and we try to work a lot with the other vendors. So you'll see we'll work with Hugging Face, we'll work with NVIDIA, we work with
Right.
SAP, we work with Oracle, we work with all the other
Right.
guys because we have found out that we have the responsibility as a vendor to help customers understand the ecosystem.
Right.
And the more and more they will come out, the more and more it will be easy. But again, I think it's FUD out there in terms of everybody saying the same thing. So what I would say to your listeners is try to find somebody that talks about your whole ecosystem and not just
Right.
what they do. Because essentially
Absolutely.
the relationships between the systems, that's where it can horribly go wrong.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
if you get
yeah.
that right, then you're safe.
I agree. Absolutely. Now, tell us about the foundational building blocks and best practices for agentic AI success, so that companies can learn from it.
So I think first of all, you need to understand what your data is, what your crown jewels are, what can go out and what cannot go out.
Right.
Second, you need to understand what types of systems you want to be using. So you'll have your legacy systems, you'll have your intermediate systems, and then you have maybe potentially new systems.
Right.
And then you figure out the technologies behind it. So we see a lot of customers choosing Snowflake and Databricks because it's zero copy. The data is not copied. So that was one of the conscious decisions that they make. Like, okay, we don't have to protect our data because by all means, if we put it in AI, it will not be copied.
Right.
So look at those technologies and figure out what you need. A lot of times people come to me and they go like, oh, we need to get our data sorted first. We need to get our workflows sorted
Right.
first before we do anything. I'm sorry, but the cost of doing nothing can be a very high cost. So it's not one or the other. I would say find parallel tracks and do
Right.
small successes. Figure it out. The way we all learn is by trying it. And if
Absolutely.
it goes horribly wrong, fail fast.
Right.
Fail fast, learn from it, screw it down if you need to screw it down, but continue to move ahead.
Right.
So, and this is where I'm a lot of times talking about the different levels of AI. Not everything is agentic.
Right.
Not
right.
everything is generic AI.
Correct.
Not everything is AI in terms of an LLM, or not everything is an RPA.
Right.
You need to figure out what are you trying to achieve. So I always tell my customers, ask yourself the annoying 2-year-old question. Why are we doing this? If you're doing this for the sake of the tool, AI for the sake of AI, you're doing it wrong. It's going to cost you a lot, zero value.
Right.
People are not going to be happy with you. If you're doing it to save man hours, have you talked to HR to see how you're going to reinvest those man hours? Because saving man hours, we all know that's going to be a spreadsheet. And if you have a financial officer out there who goes like, oh, let's replace those people or let's take them out.
Absolutely.
No. How do you now look at, okay, this is 2,000 man hours we've saved. We now have time to build a new product. We now have time to go into a new market. We now have time to do different things that we didn't do before. We
Right.
now have time to look at your business processes and optimize and transform. But people are not putting it in relationship. They're looking at the technology for the sake of the technology.
Right.
But I believe that when you really want to do AI and have a benefit, it runs through your whole organization. Now, that means the whole organization needs to be involved.
Absolutely.
HR for the skilling, upskilling, figuring out what your future will be. I always ask people, what do you want to be in 3 years? And they look at me and they go like, what do you mean? And I'm like, do you want to be the same company? Even looking at cars today, I'm like, do you still want to produce cars or do you want to do a flying car? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, drones are getting out.
Correct.
So the question is, will we continue to drive the way we drive today? Or is the market going to shift to something which is half driving, half flying? Should you look at that? And then the response is, we don't have time for this. We don't have people for this.
Right.
That's where AI comes in. Because if you take away the admin, if you take away everything that you do today, that takes your 80% of run of your
Right.
organization,
Right.
use AI for that. And then you free up those people to look at the new technologies.
Correct.
And that's how you sustain yourself in the future. So it is a chicken and egg problem because you have to first invest.
Right.
Then you'll get the free time and then you get to do other things. But if you don't think about what will happen after you have injected that AI, then you're doing half work, to be honest.
Absolutely. And I like the part where you said the cost of standing still is,
Yeah.
what most companies don't realize is I think fear keeps them from moving ahead, or they just want to just stand still because they don't know what they're going to encounter. And that's going to cost them, you
Yes.
know.
There's ample examples.
Considerably.
There's
Yeah.
ample examples. Nokia,
Yeah.
Blockbusters, Toys R Us. There's ample examples of customers that said, even the Kodak,
Right.
they were leading. And they're like, oh, we don't need to do this digital. Everybody would want to print their photographs. Hello, iPhone. Who's still printing photographs? Yes, if you have a wedding. Yes, if you have a family reunion or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
most of the times it's all on the phone. And then we have these digital prints in those digital
Yes.
frames.
Yes.
So are we really printing? No, we're not. So they missed part of the market. And I think this is no different with AI. So you will have companies that fear AI, that will lag behind. And the thing is, AI will not take your job.
Right.
AI in itself will not take your job, but the person using AI will. So
Absolutely.
you need to figure yourself out, what do we want to become in the next 3 to 5 years? Because it's going really fast. Look at where we were with ChatGPT a few years ago. It didn't even exist. And now all of a sudden everybody's using it. And that pace of fast moving, everybody says this is the next industrial revolution. I think we have never had anything like what we have today. We
I
all
agree.
have data centers in our hands.
Right.
With the iPhones and the Androids, we all have data centers in our hands. These things can do massive amount of computing. Now, if you combine that with the potential of, 100,000 brains, and then our gut feeling, where could we end up? 16-year-olds are making companies faster than any executive that has been in the business for 60 years. Right?
Absolutely.
So you need to ask yourself the question, how do we keep up with, A, sanitization, 2, understanding what we need to do with our employees. And the answer is not laying off. That's not the answer.
Right,
The answer
right.
is, how do we make sure that we utilize our employees better? And when you utilize your employees, I had another press interview this morning, and they asked me, what do you do with upskilling and reskilling? I'm like, look, it is our own responsibility. Yes, part comes down to the company, but the company can only give you the tools. If you as a person do not take your 30 minutes a day to learn, I'm sorry, but you will be left behind. And it's not for everybody. I get that. And we will still have people who will do, the old stuff,
Right.
which is fine. But if you really want to move ahead and you're young, I urge you, please educate yourself, because it's your
Right.
responsibility. Because what will happen is the recruiter will go like, do you know AI? And if the answer is no, they will take somebody who does know AI. And it's not as scary as you think. Just for the young people, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, whatever. For the somewhat older people, we have these programs. You have the ServiceNow University where you can go in and teach yourself for free.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff. There's the Google AI, there's the AWS AI. You can teach yourself on a day-to-day basis, but you just, not by, deliberately quoting Nike, but just do it. Just do it.
Right.
And I think it's our responsibility. It's not just the
Absolutely.
company. It's our responsibility as part of our career to continue to evolve ourselves.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about agentic AI and the need to address it and to get into it. Now, what is the impact that agentic AI will have on businesses and also on employees? And like you said, what does this actually mean for skills and roles? I know you said it's not going to replace, but tell us a little more about that.
So I think, first of all, you have to ask yourself the question, are our contracts going to change?
Right.
Because we all sign a contract with a company, and then that company says whatever you build in terms of applications, intelligence, whatever, belongs to the company.
Right.
Well, then I'm very sarcastically thinking, if I put my intelligence in that LLM, do they still need me? So the whole conversation is, will my intelligence injection of the learning model be a part of my contract?
Right.
Is that my intellectual property that I will get paid for? Is that my stuff that I will take? So I had a really good conversation with somebody in Silicon Valley, and they said we will have 4 profiles in the future. One for work, one for government IDs, one for personal life in terms of who you are, and one for leisure.
Right.
That's going to happen. Your work profile, who does it belong to? Does it belong to me? Does it belong to the organization? So I think we'll see a shift in how people sign contracts. We will think to see a shift in how our skills are being, perceived. Because now you hire for a certain skill that, we're a little bit older, so we got the skill in school.
Right.
But do you really still get the skill in school today? That's the question.
Correct.
Half of the time you get the skill on the job, or you get the skill because of your personal time and you invest, right? So how does that reflect into the organization? How do we hire? Do we hire the MBAs, or do we hire the people that have, not done an MBA but are really good at AI?
Correct.
So I think there's a big difference happening in how we will define CVs, how we will define skills, how we will define organizations, and how we will hire for the future.
Correct.
And things that we haven't really talked about is decentralized HR.
Yes.
What if you become a skilled person in a certain thing, and you work for 5 different companies because you're really skilled? We're not really thinking about that. But with the AI moving so fast, and with the standard of, moving in and out so fast, what if an AI can onboard you for 1 hour? And you could work for that company for 1 hour and then get offboarded. That could be the future. So looking at where we are today, we're still very classic and we're still doing it. And I think we have to invest in people. We have to look at where we are. But I think HR people and the CHROs are in a conundrum for the future because we cannot hire the same way that we hired before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even I have a 20-year-old. We had a big discussion. Should I get my MBA? Yes or no? And I'm like, I don't know. Because by the time you hit 30, 40, when you actually need your MBA to become a manager, will the MBA still be the same? So I think it's an evolution that we're in. And that's why I'm saying I think this is bigger than the Industrial Revolution.
Absolutely.
Because we just don't know.
Correct.
But the one thing that I do know is that if we keep ourselves up to date, if we continue to grow as we move, everybody will figure it out eventually.
Absolutely.
And the sky's the limit, right? Now is the beauty that it doesn't exist.
Right.
So let's build it.
Correct.
So I've had these discussions with CHROs in terms of what is the future of hiring. I don't know. Let's look at the potential.
Correct.
And I think people need to be open for this. We need to be open for intellectual property sharing. We need to be open for skills that are not necessarily university skills.
Right.
We need to be open for multi-environment. We need to be open. Maybe there will be a role which is workflow role.
Absolutely.
And you work for all the different companies in that workflow. Maybe that's the future. I don't know. But it is a really interesting time. That's what I do know.
Absolutely. And I like the point. I love the fact where you said the future is unpredictable for sure. So what we look at is not the unpredictability, but the potential that it holds.
Exactly.
We know that it holds potential and there are opportunities. What it is, we don't know, but then we keep our eyes on that, on the potential.
Exactly.
Which I think is what organizations should look at.
And I think I'm happy. And this is why an innovation officer is so important. I think more companies need to have our type of role to think about, okay, it's kind of like a combination between a futurist, but still applicable.
Correct.
So a futurist looks 3, 5, 6, 7 years out. That for me is too far out, I look at what is the technology today and what is the potential of the technology in the next 2 years.
Right.
And then I work my way back.
Correct.
And I go like, okay, if this is what is possible, how would that potentially affect what we do today?
Right.
And that makes it very tangible. That makes it very realistic.
Absolutely.
And we can work towards something. And in my job, it's very easy because the future is a moving target, right?
Correct.
So if you move your target and you reinvest every 3 months into, are we still doing the right thing? You do that sanity check. You can modify your road.
Right.
And eventually, whether it goes that way or whether it goes that way, it doesn't matter because you modified your road while you're going.
Absolutely.
And that's where you get success.
Right.
But it's that constant collaboration between the whole organization that is important. Now, coming back to skill, I think that most CEOs of the future will have a tech background.
Right.
Because they will need to orchestrate that. They will need to orchestrate their whole organization. And imagine if you build something like a ServiceNow and you have this cognitive sense of where your business is going, your neural network of your organization, then you need to be able to understand that.
Right.
Once you understand that, you will see that people will have these skills that will tweak in each area.
Right.
And if you start to tweak in each area, it means that everybody needs to be on a minimum base of knowledge, right?
Right.
So I do think that all of the roles will be more tech enabled, not tech as in background, but tech enabled, as in how do we use the tech to get there? And we do see that happening in a lot of times. So I'm also a board member at the Benelux Business Council. The amount of times boards have asked me for an innovation officer, an AI expert, a chief AI officer. Because even the board who understands that this is a major technology shift looks like, okay, how do we now guide the CEO? So even the tech is landing in the board now.
Right.
It's not just landing in the C-suite, it's landing in the board. So there is a big shift happening. And I think if you really get on board, learn, sky's the limit.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Now, let's talk about AI IP.
Yes.
Now, who owns it? The company or the employee?
Depends on your contract.
Okay.
So so this is where I think, I've asked myself the question. Over the years, I worked at different companies, and every time I sign a contract, there's this little clause in there that everything you build during working hours belongs to the company. And I'm like, okay, fair.
Right.
But what if I inject my intelligence in asking the right questions in an AI? Essentially, they could replace me.
Right.
Because my whole being is now in the AI.
Right.
So do I get a part of that intellectual property? Do I get part of that? And there is people who already go outside and say, look, whatever I build an application, or I've built an application before and I come to the company, I then take it in and you pay me for that IP. So I think that's going to be part of our contract.
Absolutely.
I think at some point, if I do something, or I can use text to code to text. If I say, look, build me a dashboard, give me everything that I need to know from an AI maturity standpoint, that dashboard becomes a blueprint. I can then sell that blueprint. Does it belong to ServiceNow? Or does it belong to me? Because it was my idea.
Right. Absolutely.
It wasn't ServiceNow's idea. Now, today we don't have that issue yet. But I'm sure in the next 2 to 3 years, the more and more people will start to develop blueprints, and the more and more we'll start to do that, the new contracts being signed will definitely have that debate in there. And I think this will be a negotiation. This will be a hard negotiation when you start at a company.
Right. Absolutely. And it's interesting to see the directions in which all of this is going. And one last question, Jessica. What excites you most about AI?
Oh, free time.
Right.
I am... I shouldn't probably say this out loud, but I'm going to be very honest with you. I hate admin. That's my pet peeve. All of the Concur expenses, reporting, I hate it. And I've been asking ServiceNow for years and years and years for an admin, for a PA, didn't get it, which I think is fair because I shouldn't. But if I can get AI to be my admin, if I can get AI to be my PA, if I can ask AI to fill in my expense notes, create my PowerPoints and do everything, fantastic. Then I can focus on what is core to my job.
Right.
I can go to customers, explain, enable, do all of that. But write down the meeting notes? Nah, don't want to do that. Send an email with the recap? Don't want to do that. Do the expenses of the travel going there? Don't want to do that. Because for me, that's a cost which is very expensive if I have to do it.
Right.
But also it's unfair for an admin to do because you kind of lower degrading them. So I want an admin to be shared among multiple people and to have that one-on-one.
Right.
But again, they should not be doing this. It should be an AI doing this for you.
Right.
And somebody helping you to do your better self.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's probably my biggest thing. What I'm also looking forward to is, the whole self-flying environments. If the AI maps 3D and then we can get past Sheikh Zayed traffic, that would be fantastic.
That would be perfect.
I'm looking forward to a world that completely shifts. But I'm also very conscious that we have to be careful. We have to be careful about what we wish for.
Absolutely.
And we shouldn't lose the human being. So that's why we put human beings at the center. And that's why I think it's your responsibility as a human being to make sure that you're not being forgotten.
Absolutely.
But that's up to us.
Correct.
And the more we talk about AI, the more we do AI, the more I think gut feeling, the more I think empathy, the more I think, keeping the AI sane in terms of what is right and what is wrong is our responsibility.
Correct.
Because some people out there say that AI is scary. Yes, but that's also because people are scary.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's our responsibility as human beings to make sure that the AI is safe, to make sure that the AI is biased in the right way, to make sure that it is fair to everybody, and to know how we need to deal with it. And then I think it will be a nice world.
Absolutely. I mean, so much learning in this conversation. It was so many insights and so many fresh perspectives, Jessica. You were really inspiring.
Thank you. Well, it's my job to be inspiring, so I hope I kind of do a good job.
But you're a natural, so I mean, it just came. It all just came together. Thank you so much for taking the time, Jessica. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too.